You don't need I'm doing this my way.
He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend, he a legend, he a legend. He a legend. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items. Welcome to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league, to the league of items.
What's up, everybody? It's Pikel with League of Items, and we have a decent number of games to go through today, as well as the slate for tomorrow. And before I get into that, I want to talk about ROG. So today, ROG beat Fnatic, and it was a very close game for most of it. I think that Fnatic deserves respect for how close the game was because it wasn't an easy game to play. But it was a perfect spot for me to be on ROG last night because Fnatic has looked better than ROG so far this year. So, well, people expected Fnatic to look better than ROG this year. So a lot of the public perception has been overly positive for Fnatic, especially with Vitality coming back a little bit. The way that it kind of happens is since Vitality and Fnatic were both up here in most people's minds going into the split, and the Vitality drops down a little bit, you would think that Fnatic stays the same, but because of their relative strength compared to Vitality, it probably made them seem a little bit stronger. So yesterday, going into that game, Fnatic was a minus 156 favorite over ROG, and I just instantly knew that I was going to be on the ROG side. I didn't end up making any money off of it on DraftKings because that's just how even picking the right games, if you don't have the right combination of teams on DraftKings, you're not going to end up, cashing in a tournament or winning a tournament. But somebody did win a tournament. JB from Discord won 10 grand in the $333 tournament. So congrats to JB. His lineup is right here. So he played Flocked, Broken Blade, Syncroft, Caps, X Matty, Targamas, and BDS, and it was a 4 stack from G2 as his primary stack. Congrats to JB. He's always pretty active. Good to talk to in Discord. So congrats again on the 10 grand. He's one of the original Discord members, and he has dealt with misfits just as much as any of us. Meaning they've cost him a bunch of money, just like he's cost me a bunch of money as well. So I don't know why Tiermaker keeps wanting to make noise. But let me get up the scoreboard for ROG, because the question after a win over Mad Lions and a win over Fnatic, you can start asking yourself, is ROG one of the best teams, if not the best team in the West? And tomorrow they're playing against Vitality, so they can really solidify their spot as potentially the strongest team in the West. So in today's game, it was 20 kills to 4. Otoamne was on Gwen. Malrong played a good Viego game. Larson was on TF. Comp played Jin, which we obviously hate. And Trimby played Janna. Humanoid had 7 deaths and was probably the reason why his team lost the game. You love to see that. Humanoid, probably the most overrated player in the West. I don't have any problems with him as a person, but the community perception of Humanoid is hilarious. So I think it's at least fair to ask. I think tomorrow we'll get answers to, is ROG the best team in the West? Right now, I think the best teams in the West are Evil Geniuses, ROG, Vitality. Those are my top teams. Probably Fnatic is right there as well. Maybe 1 or 2 teams from North America. But we'll see Evil Geniuses play tomorrow. Team Liquid's playing right now against Dignitas. But I think there is a qualitative difference between those teams. So let's talk about some of the other results from yesterday. Last night, Damwon beat up on Hanwha Life, and Fredit Brion had the upset over Kwangdong Freaks. And this was that was a spot that I was never going to be on. I know that Frederick Brion has been talked up a decent amount recently, and there are some people in like the DFS and betting space that like Frederick Brion a decent amount. I just don't see it. I don't think that their players are very good. Fate hasn't been playing very well recently. And there are some draft issues from Kwangdong, so I think this loss probably says more about Kwangdong Freaks than it does about Frederick Brion. And if you remember back in the beginning of the split when we were talking about the strength of teams, a lot of people were criticizing me for having Kwangdong Freaks in the D tier instead of like the C tier. And maybe I need to switch up where they are in the most recent tier list. I'll bring that up on the screen. In my most recent tier list, I think I still have Kwangdong Freaks relatively low. Yeah, so I still have Kwangdong Freaks above Frederick Brion, but not by a significant amount. And this isn't updated with like the recent couple of matches. This was done on the 9th, I think, so I'll probably redo all of these this weekend. But yeah, so I mean that's basically it. That's kind of surprising that happened. The other takeaway I had in the second game of this match specifically is that if you're going to leave open Corki, you cannot play this type of team composition where you have not necessarily squishy champions, but if you don't have 2 or more true tanks that can block a lot of these rockets, you run the risk of Corki you hitting one big one and chunking 3 of your teammates to half health. There was a point in that game last night around the deciding dragon fight where I think Aphelios, LeBlanc, and Lee Sin got hit by one Corki ultimate, and all 3 of them lost half of their health, which is just absolutely insane. So it's kind of insane when you see things like that happen. They banned Corki in the first game, but they left it open in the second game on blue side. They think it's bannable. They think it's bannable red side, but not first pickable blue side. That's kind of weird. So obviously that didn't work out for them. I still think that they're going to be okay, or at least competitive with the other bottom of the table teams. I don't expect them to be this low or perform at this level for the entire split. The casters were talking about some academy players potentially coming up because they have some good academy players. So that sort of thing doesn't really come out of nowhere. I think there's probably already rumors going around that they're going to make that sort of change if the players don't kind of turn it around. I'm going to mute that. So that's it for Korea. For yesterday's matches in Korea. Tomorrow we have Genji against KT Rolster and Nongshim against DRX. So Genji against KT Rolster, just going back to the tier list, obviously it is not the biggest discrepancy that you could have, but I do like Genji a considerable amount more than KT Rolster. Let me put that on my sheet. So we have Genji against KT. The pick is going to be Genji as a favorite. In the second match, we have Nongshim against DRX. So let's talk about this real quick, because this is the kind of spot that we have to play DRX. We have to consider betting DRX for the outright, because I still believe that DRX has the talent to compete with the middle of the table teams from talent alone. Like that's the extent of my analysis on that one. And then the other thing is, why we should think to ourselves, why is the money line as big as it is? So if you look at the money line, it is minus 323 to DRX plus 235. It's obvious that DRX can win a game against Nongshim. I think that Nongshim did play well against T1. They kept the first game pretty close from the kill score. The second game they ended up winning, and then the third game they kept it relatively close as well. The only potential concern I would have is from like a matchup perspective. Kana is one of the best top laners, if not the best top laner in the world. Kingen has played all right, but Kingen isn't anywhere near Kana's level in my mind. So it's going to be matchup dependent. Kana can always pull something out like the Akali, which is tough. And that's one of the reasons why we thought they could take games off of T1 is because of the strength of Kana. In the jungle, I still prefer Piosik to Dread. A lot of people have been saying that Dread has been the best performing jungler for the past, like, they were either saying this season or like the last split. I'm not going to ever agree to something like that. So, you know, that's just a difference of opinion that we're not going to agree on. And again, that's why your opinions are your opinions and my opinions are my opinions. Then we have Zika against BDD. I think that Zika can definitely play with BDD. The interesting thing about the mid lane matchup is that I think Zika is more likely to counterpick into whatever BDD is doing. So we've seen BDD play Victor. We know he can play Victor, Corki, TF, Syndra, and there will be opportunities for Zika to counterpick in mid lane, and he's good enough to do that, and he's good enough to win in that scenario. Then in the bot lane we have Ghost and Peter against Deft and Beryl. This is not a spot where I like. This is not a spot where you have a true hard carry ADC versus a utility AD carry. I do think that Ghost is basically a utility AD carry, but Deft is kind of a utility carry as well at this point. We'll probably get Jinx Aphelios traded back and forth. But if one team is more likely to go towards utility, I think it would be Nongshim. And if that's the case, I want to be on DRX for that reason. So I think that, you know, for my pick, I'm fine going with DRX as a dog, especially if you're gonna bet DRX plus 1.5 maps or something like that. That's what I'd be looking for tomorrow. But that's it for Korea. Let's go to the LEC. So we had BDS beat Astralis. I had BDS. Mad Lions against XL. I had Mad Lions. Vitality against SK. I had Vitality. Rogue against Fnatic. I had Rogue. And then G2 against Misfits. I had G2, but I thought that Misfits had a chance. So there's not much more to say about that. Let's just go over the games for tomorrow. Then I'm going to take a quick look at the Rogue Fnatic match from today. So SK Gaming against BDS minus 132 to plus 100. XL minus 189 to Astralis plus 144. Mad Lions minus 270 to Misfits is plus 200. Vitality and Rogue, this line surprised me. Vitality minus 130, Rogue plus 100. I would have assumed that Rogue would be the favorite. But I do think that Vitality is probably the better team long term, but a lot of the time the sports books kind of have public perception taken into consideration, and I would have assumed that public perception justified having Rogue listed as the favorite. But these are two teams that are very close from a talent perspective. So I'm not sure if I can really advise betting either side here. Getting Rogue as an underdog is nice, but I don't know. It's just really tough. I think I have to be on the Vitality side because I do think that they are the best team in Europe from a talent perspective, but recent form would suggest that that Rogue is the right side. And then you're just getting paid off twice in the sense that they have the better form right now and they're listed as the underdog. So I wouldn't criticize you for that if you wanted to be on Rogue tomorrow. And then Fnatic against G2. I'm picking G2. I think that Fnatic is overrated, and this money line is just like not correct in my mind. I think that plus 167 is pretty surprising. I think it should be closer to plus, like, I think it should be more like a line like this, or maybe even closer, like a plus 130. So like a minus 170 to a plus 130, something like that. So I think that's where I would be for that one. Let's take a look at the LEC. So let's get to so like even at this point in the game, right? Even at this point in the game, it was pretty close for the gold score, even though the kills were not very close. And that is somewhat impressive from Fnatic. Like, they had a considerable kill deficit, and their ability to kind of like outfarm during the laning phase was actually beneficial to them. Humanoid died a bunch of times. They were able to take dragons from a losing position, which is always good to see. The play that kind of broke open the game was this one right here, because they have a 1.5k gold lead right now. Orianna has to TP out. Diana gets caught. She's gonna die, and then they're instantly pinging to go to mid lane, shove out the wave, and then go to Baron. So that's why this kind of thing happens. So let's just go back here. So if you, I don't know if you can really see it on the minimap, but right now you have all the other members of Fnatic are kind of retreating, and they want to stop Baron if they can, because they know that these 4 players from Rogue are going to shoot up the river and try to contest mid wave and then go to Baron. So you'll see what happens during the transition of that. So now they are right around mid lane. Now they're looking to pick off stragglers who are making the transition from bot lane to mid. So Hylissang gets caught out. Humanoid tries to protect them, gets a combo onto the Janna, but isn't able to kill them. And then Jhin, this is like the only thing that Jhin can really do is try to support from a long range. I think that you could probably argue that it was a mistake for Humanoid and Hylissang to even be anywhere near the jungle, knowing that they're all coming up from the bot side of the map. So if you're Hylissang, maybe just walk out through lane or the pathway that's closer to the base. But after they get those 2 additional kills, it's a 3-for-0, and they get Baron. And in my mind, that just destroys the game. Like, the game is over at that point. So that's basically it. I don't really want to go much longer. I think this is good enough for timing on this video. So that's all I got for you today. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna take this phone call, and I'll talk to you later.